Exalted patron of this episode is Ashiraya. Thank you for all the support. You are making this community really great. Hello everyone, I'm Venris.
And I am the Loose Noose Moose Goose.
And this is I Don't Know podcast because we don't know a lot of stuff but like to talk about them. And today we are not alone because we have a first guest in this podcast history, and this is Nathan from the Great Book of Grudges channel.
Yeah,
Welcome, Nathan. Glad to have you here.
it's going to be cool.
Nathan was invited because we have a very, very special topic today, and we needed a very big nerd of Warhammer because we will be talking about all the spoilers for Total War Warhammer series, lore history, the plot, and also the biggest hero and the villain of the whole series, the Advisor.
I'm looking forward to hearing all of the both of your opinions on the Advisor and any feedback on any other personal conspiracies about the Advisor, because ever since Game 1, where I saw the end of the Warrior of Chaos cutscene, I was just, ooh, who's this man?
A lot of spoilers already. But usually we are talking about the stuff that happened to us last week before the podcast. And as we have a guest today, Nathan, you are one of the person that had early access to the game. And how many hours you have in the Warhammer 3 already?
I can tell you, just give me a sec. In Warhammer 3, I've got 379.6 hours.
So we can say that you played a bit.
Yeah. I've played with every faction. I don't have all the achievements because we were given the achievements after, unfortunately. So I'm just regaining them by actually playing once again. But I've played with every faction. I've completed every faction. I've done everything involved with it. And yeah, just generally enjoying the game now. Now I get to play for me.
I also assume that you read all the events, dilemmas, effects, everything.
Yeah, I was going through them as they popped up because there's obviously some interesting stuff that popped up in dilemmas, and a lot of them have made it onto videos and so on, because while they might just be little tidbits, some of them are really, really like important to lore fans. So like I was just playing as much as possible, pretty much stopping, taking screenshots of everything, making sure that I could read everything at night whilst I was having my tea at night and so on. There's a lot of dilemmas in game. There are a lot.
I have a question for you on these dilemmas really quickly. In Total Warhammer 1, there were dilemmas, and the one that I always think of was like a call forward, was a village goes missing in the middle of the night, and there's a strange sigil carved on anything. Obviously, the Skaven call forward to that. With these dilemmas that you've been poring over in game so far, you have any ideas? Like, are there any call forwards to what they might be?
Well, yeah, there's a few going after, like, for example, there's a few mentioning the Tiger Men and Ind and so on. And we've already seen the world map, like the prototype. And that obviously is something that a lot of people are very curious about, because Ind has gotten a lot of new lore over the years through, say, for example, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, which is considered its own thing, but there are rumors that they're trying to connect all the timelines. And we've heard a lot of stuff, like, for example, when Andy Hall started giving some hints towards Ind, specifically mentioning the Tiger Men and so on. So seeing those dilemmas for me was like, oh, this is interesting. Then there's mention of the Naga, there's mention of the Chaos Dwarves. This is stuff that we're all either expecting or hoping to be in game. And we had that a lot in Warhammer 2, where they mentioned, I think it was during the Twisted in the Twilight, there was a dilemma which specifically mentioned bear riders. So I always see these things as
like that.
Exactly. So there's always like little hints that Creative Assembly like to put in for the future. Like whether or not they want to acknowledge those hints is something completely else. But everyone's already seen, when we go through 5 years of a series that we've had so far now.
We know the song and dance by now.
Yeah, we know, like, these are hints. We know these are real strong hints.
I cannot even imagine how much work requires from CA to write all of those texts for dilemma, effect bundles, effects, items. This is like an insane amount of work that is sadly mostly ignored by the people.
Yeah, it's a lot of hours that are just okay, click. What's the sword do? +3 to melee attack, and get rid of it.
Yeah. I mean, lore fans or people who are interested in speculation and so on will look to it, but the grand majority of the player base won't. But grand majority of the player base won't see the little jokes that they've got in there, because they do hide a lot of jokes and references to real world stuff and so on. Because we've got like a dilemma for Sinesh saying 50 Shades of Purple, which is obviously,
I
you
haven't
know,
seen that one.
exactly. But there is still a devoted portion of the player base which is actively searching through those things, trying to find stuff.
Bless every one of them.
Yeah, it's insane amount of work and dedication for people even to read those. I think because many dilemmas are only for a specific faction and also for the specific legendary lord. So playing to find stuff that sounds really crazy. But as we were,
Exhausting.
maybe I don't think it's exhausting if someone likes it.
No, that's fair.
So as we were talking about, because we need to move forward,
All right.
the topic of speculation can be for each own separate podcast. We'll be talking about a brief lore history about each of the Total War Warhammer series game. And I think the lore already started with first trailer of Total War Warhammer 1. It was back in 2015, if I recall right. And Luz,
Yes.
who we had on this trailer?
If I'm remembering the correct trailer, because it's been a long time and a lot of games, I remember there being an old man poring over a book who gets a little bit intimate with said book and then stares into the camera. If I'm remembering the correct trailer, I hope I am.
Okay, in this situation, we need a lore of Warhammer nerd. Nathan, you probably know who it is on the trailer.
Well, it is confirmed to be the advisor.
This
It
is
is confirmed
advisor?
to be. Yeah.
I was sure that it was Horseman.
No, it's not
I
Van
wasn't.
Horseman.
Oh my god! At first, I thought it was Horseman too. For the longest time, it's like this is
See,
clear evidence.
Yeah, I was
This
sure
is-
to this moment that it was Horseman, and they just changed it later on.
This is an argument that I've had with a lot of people regarding it, because Van Horseman, yes, he was a light wizard, but he was a big man. Like, he wasn't a frail old dude. Van Horseman was still, like, fairly young, fairly well built. This guy is a pinnacle chaos warrior. The fact that he managed to sneak in and infiltrate the colleges of light is beyond me, but then again, weirder things have happened in Warhammer Fantasy lore. But it
Yeah.
is confirmed that this is the advisor. This was confirmed, I believe, by Andy Hall, the principal writer of Warhammer 3. And we see that the advisor has been very into the story throughout different areas and aging differently too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because this also goes to the topic of Warhammer 1 game and its plot. Because the briefest summary is that we have an advisor that comes to everyone with advices, let's call it, only to make everyone at war. And Warriors of Chaos came with their invasion, but they are also part of his plot because everything is a machination of
Sartorial the Everwatcher.
Yeah.
Or the Watcher, excuse me.
Yeah, he wants everyone to argue with them, have wars, and in the time he takes over the Chaos invasion, let's call it, and Advisor is being eaten.
Yeah, that's unfortunate how that turned out for the poor guy, but very, very chaotic. I mean, it's sticking to how things should be.
Yeah.
Well, there are a few theories surrounding him post-death. Yeah. So, despite how Tzeentch is Tzeentch, and anything Tzeentchian is very Tzeentchian, there is a theory floating about that this was his blessing. So Sartorial comes in, takes over, and perhaps the advisor has been moved to the realms of chaos where he can ascend.
That's very interesting theory.
I like the idea of that.
Because
It-
I was thinking that he's just dead. He was used. But your theory is way better.
It's a hard toss up for me because it would still be as successful as he was between the 3 games and eventually getting something to work and a big chaos event to happen. That doesn't mean they'll still care about him.
Generally, when it comes to Warhammer Fantasy, they wouldn't. However, if you go through the dilemmas of Khorne and the descriptions of the bloodletters, lore has been changed there, where fallen Chaos Warriors then ascend to become bloodletters. When it's not usually the case, because if you want to become a Chaos Demon...
That is super interesting.
Yeah, it is a massive lore change, because if you fall, you failed. That's how it's generally been. You wouldn't ascend unless there was some sort of higher purpose, for example, Khorne with Valkyria and some other demons. But this is very different. So the theory of the advisor becoming, say, for example, an iridescent horror is not very far-fetched.
That's a very good theory, really, for the advisor.
I do like that.
And we are only on the game 1 right now. Because sadly, game 1 did not have any more lore.
Yeah.
In terms of the advisor, we had a DLC with the Warlord and the King, so Belagar and Skarsnik, and this is like the only real DLC with actual history and lore. The Beastman DLC was just kill everyone in Middenheim, and the Wood Elves defend the tree against Morgur. So there were like more hints to the lore than actual lore. And we can, I think, freely move to the Warhammer 2, when the main topic of Warhammer 2 was the Vortex, and Advisor is totally missing on the Vortex campaign. He doesn't have even one line, or he is not involved. Do you think this is like a machination of Tzeentch, or he's just like a Vortex is its own story? Because there are theories on Reddit that whole Vortex thing was a machination of Tzeentch also.
So what we do know about the Vortex is that it's a very, very powerful magical font. It's what basically protects Ulthuan from demons and so on. And for a lot of people who don't know, Sigmar Heldenhammer himself, the god, is inside the Vortex.
Mm-hmm.
But what we know here is that the main villain is the Skaven. The Skaven are trying to use the Vortex's power to summon the Great Horned Rat into the actual world, which would be an end times level catastrophe, as the Great Horned Rat himself is fairly powerful in terms of scaling. It's something that I think the Skaven could smell Tzeentchian sorcery if the advisor came to him. It's very easy for a Gracia to tell if, well, maybe he's chaotic, maybe he's the changeling, maybe he's this. So they wouldn't be able to be so easy to approach. Same thing with, say, for example, the High Elves and so on. These are races who have dealt with chaos in its purest form, whereas humanity is very easy to trick. Very easy to trick. The Beastmen, stupidly easy to trick. Greenskin, same. But when it comes to something which works on a stronger scale of intelligence, even the Skaven, funny enough, it's a bit tougher.
Yeah, I see the talk of your thinking right now. So this would indicate that the Vortex is just its own story, not linked to the series, let's call it.
I would say it's linked, because the Skaven would do that. Even if, say, for example, we are heading to the end times, which we kind of are, but we'll talk to that when we get to Game 3. I'd say that this is still something that could be happening at the same time, because the Skaven don't care about what the hell Chaos are doing. Yes, they see them as a potential ally, because, let's face it, it's kind of smart, but why wait for the end times to happen when you can just summon in your god and do something which your race has been embedded to do since their very birth, which is the Great Ascendancy?
Now, really quickly, I do not remember, but I don't remember the exact details, but I do remember there being some people talking about Nikari during the second game, like him being attached to the Vortex in some way. Can you elaborate on that? I'm sure you know more than I do on the subject.
I believe it's because a lot of these temple cities form part of the geomantic web.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is you want to be able to strengthen it in their own way. Like in theory, the High Elves and the Lizardmen shouldn't have been fighting, which you do fight against them, but they shouldn't have been because they are on the same alliance. Like it is stated that for a lot of the big plaques, the High Elves fall on the High Elves fall on the Great Plan. They are part of the Great Plan. So it's fair to say that Nakari was strengthening the Lizardmen without actively taking part, because Nakari basically in lore just goes about. He's not really in lore finding temple cities and so on. He's a great protector more than anything else. But story-wise for the DLC, he is re-establishing the Lost Holds, finding any spawning pools that may not be tainted and so on, which in theory would then help against the Skaven.
This is a big theory crafting.
I mean, that's kind of what we're up to today, right?
Yeah, that's the topic. But like we didn't had any big indicators that the Vortex is linked to the Warhammer 3 and Warhammer 1 history. Especially that when Mortal Empires came, Mortal Empires are just expanded Warhammer 1. It has same cinematics, same characters, advisor, etc. So we can freely say that Warhammer 2 Mortal Empires is just Warhammer 1 extended.
Well, this is the thing. It was also confirmed by Andy Hall, the principal writer, that the timelines of the series goes Game 3, Game 2, Game 1.
You just spoiled the whole podcast. No one will be listening to us right now.
No. Because this is important for people to know regarding the Vortex campaign itself. How that works is this is an event which this is why, like, say, for example, all the other campaigns have something different. The Warhammer world has so many things going on. Like, if you look through the timeline, the problem is Games Workshop never really established a proper timeline going down from dates. So, as, say, for example, you and I are fighting over Karak 8 Peaks as Belagar and Scarsnake, the Skaven have already probably started for the Vortex. But whilst that's going on, at the exact same time, Nakari is doing something else.
Okay.
And then it's one of these things where it's a timeline, and it's a set timeline, but it is splintered into events. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, totally. I got it.
Yeah, I think it have.
I've heard people say, with how the timeline lays out, is that the destabilization of the vortex may be in part due to Urson's roars.
That's very possible. That is very possible.
I really don't like this theory, to be honest, because it really takes away the involvement of the Skaven.
No, because the Skaven would take advantage of that.
Plus, it also adds a little bit more connectivity between games 3 and 2, which kind of feel like separate entities to me. Entirely, like no real connection between the two of them.
Yeah, we are looking for the connection right now, and I hope that Immortal Empires will do the connection.
Oh, it definitely will. I feel like it will, because once we go down through the DLC of Warhammer 2, we'll start to see it more fleshed out.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in a full story of Warhammer 3 with spoilers, but let's move to the Warhammer 3 right now story. And a brief summary of it is that Ursun, the god of Kislev, is dying, and all of us are trying to do something with him and fight against Belakor that he captured Ursun. So without the spoilers, just like a brief history, and each of us is trying to do it.
Yeah.
And this is like a very, very disrespect to the whole story, I think, because Warhammer 3 story is the best story in the whole series so far, for me at least, in all the DLCs, etc. And as we move to the full spoilers, I think Nathan will be the best person to talk about the prologue. The thing that, sadly, I think that CA did insane good amount of work how it is made, but the bad thing was too that it is totally spoiled when you're starting campaign. new campaign, it's spoiled as hell. And the second, players are not properly informed that they should start with a prologue.
So the reason why they don't force people to the prologue is because Total War is supposed to be a sandbox game, which is not a fair thing to say considering the Eye of the Vortex campaign and the Realm of Chaos campaign. It is kind of heavily focused on a story. The prologue itself is very masterfully done, and you get a bit more information prior to that because there is a prologue to the prologue on Total War Access. That was a short story released by Andy Hall, which goes into a little bit more story.
You see, I didn't know about this.
Yeah.
Where are the information about this, CA?
They posted some info. The problem is that it's not too well communicated, unfortunately. But it's a good story, and I won't spoil anything from that because you can actually go into the story of Game 3 without reading that prologue. Although, if you want to learn more about Kislevites lore, I would suggest you read it because it is a nice thing. And keep in mind that this is then considered canon, so it is a decent read. But when it goes into the Warhammer 3 prologue, we meet Prince Yuri, who's been having some trouble because obviously there's chaos incursions coming into KSF on a constant basis. This is something that's embedded into their lore. There is worry about Ursun, and without going very spoilery, there is...
we can go spoilers. We are going full spoilers right now.
Well, there is a loss of faith, which leads to Ursun being captured. Because loss of faith... Keep in mind that Warhammer gods rely heavily on faith. Yes. So the more supporters, the more believers, the stronger that god is. Now, a lot of people have come to ask me why one person losing faith could do so much damage. And it's simply because you are right there in the presence of the god. So your faith being destroyed is like a knife to the throat, in a sense, you know?
Yeah, but we went to the end of the prologue. Let's go with a brief summary of it because some didn't want to play the game, it just want to hear us blabbering. So Prince Yuri Ungol from Kislev is being sent to the north to Chaos Waste because Ursun was not seen for almost 7 years. And Ursun always was ending winter for Kislev so they can take crops, etc. Along the way, he went with his brother and he's being tempted by the forces of chaos. And in the end, he kills his brother to get to the place of where Ursun is being captive. And it happens that his capture is by Belacor, the Nameless Shadow, as it is named there. And when Yuri sees Ursun, very weakened, as you just said, he loses his faith totally and uses chaotic weapon. I don't know, it was like a gun blessed by chaos because it had sparkles. It wasn't translated, but it uses this gun to presumably kill Ursun. And that's how the main campaign starts.
Yuri, man, I want to root for Yuri in the campaign. I like him a lot, but he fell for the classic blunder in any fantasy story. Do not pick up the evil dude's sword.
Yeah.
That is guaranteed ruination of you every single time.
Everything I do for my people.
However, it's done in a very smart way because thing is, this is a common trope with Warhammer Fantasy, right? Like Venner said, everything I do for my people. We see that with, say, for example, Festus, the Leech Lord, the Glotkin. Pretty much any big name chaos is someone who has good intentions and falls. It's always that case with Warhammer Fantasy. They are not born inherently evil. Neither is, like, say, for example, Archaon. He did not want to be what he is.
Mm-hmm.
And he falls purely because that was fate. So yeah, I like that story because of that.
Yeah, it also indicates me the story of Teclis from the end times. When he took the fire of Ulrich.
Exactly that.
I also think CA did a really good job simultaneously catering to the knowledge of pre-existing Warhammer fans and people that are coming into the series with Urson talking to him. If you don't know anything about Warhammer, it's like, oh man, that's sick. He's gonna go, defeat chaos or whatever. He'll be like the main character. If you played Warhammer long enough, a voiceless thing from the shadows claiming to be a god is an immediate red flag you should be scared of.
Yeah.
Yes. The prologue also shows perfectly how chaos is working.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that people need to know. Gods can directly communicate with you, yes, but more often than not, it's chaos. Gods will only communicate with you in the most abstract way possible. Like, for example, if you look at, say, for example, the rise of Bretonia, yes, that's an elven god, the Lady of the Lake. And that is the most... She's never even going to say she's the Lady of the Lake. That just became folklore,
Mm-hmm.
There's never going to... It's very, very rare unless it's in like an ancestor god. Like, say, for example, Grimnir and so on, who lived among their people. Or Sigmar when he was a mortal. But even then, he wasn't even a god back then. But you won't get this little voice in the back room going, yeah, go kill him.
Do it.
Probably
Do it.
Chaos's biggest strength is just like the direct, hey man, go do this, as opposed to let me look at a rock and interpret what God wants.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that works. That works, and Yuri betrays Ursun and assumedly kill him. And we are moving to the main campaign. And in the main campaign, depending on your character, on your legendary lord, the advisor comes to your character, and he's wielding the Book of Fate or Tome of Fate.
Tome of Fate.
Yeah. Nathan, can you tell us more about Tome of Fate, because you have some crazy theories about it?
Well, first up, you need to mention one thing, which a lot of people seem to kind of pass by. Yuri is blessed by demonhood, and that's kind of expected.
Oh yes, this is the big reveal that I was very happy that wasn't spoiled. That Be'lakor tricks Yuri to kill Ursun, and when he injures him, there's a massive explosion, and Yuri is dying, and he's cursing his own gods and asks Chaos gods for help, and they listen to him, and he became the Demon Prince that we are able to play in the main campaign.
Man.
That was fantastic. Really, the whole scene when he's ascending is like nice.
Whenever it went from... Oh, go ahead, Nathan. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I actually startled my wife whenever it happened, because as soon as he hit the snow and started making pledges and begging for more power, I was like, wait a fucking second. And then it happened like 3 seconds later, and I was like, I knew it! Fuck!
I was sure that he will die. I didn't see it coming, but I also told the story to my wife, and she said that is very good story.
So, the really important thing that people seem to pass by is that not only did he ascend to demonhood, but he ascended to a demon form which has not been seen for many thousands of years. Yuri became an undivided demon prince.
Yeah, even that he mostly did stuff for Khorne in this campaign. I think the gods made it because they were sick of Be'lakor.
Yeah, but the gods made a mistake. Because originally, when Be'lakor was created, they realized, oh, we've made a mistake. We poured too much power on a being which now seeks to become a god in his own right, and has attempted that in lore many, many times throughout many different universes. And yet, we have an undivided demon prince, the first in a very, very long time. A very powerful being in his own right, which can get even more powerful as you play through his campaign. And I find that very, very curious, because it shouldn't happen by the law of Warhammer Fantasy, because
it's not logical in terms of Chaos Gods. You don't think that the Chaos Gods are so stupid to do the same mistake?
I kind of have a thing in my head. It's not like a great theory, but it's a fun one, which is this is the equivalent with Yuri. Is yes, the Chaos Champions have done amazing things and ascended to being demon princes, but our man, the Uncle Prince, strolled into Chaos and shot a god in the head. And for me, I'm just like, I'm seeing this happen, and it's like the four Chaos Gods watching it on a big screen, and they're just like high-fiving, like, holy shit, it worked! And they just get really excited and pour it all into them.
Luz, you're just saying that when you grow up, you want to be like Yuri.
I mean,
You see, if we go to extended canon, that shouldn't really be possible, though. Like, yes, you can kill a god. We have seen gods die in the future. We have seen gods die through the form of the end times and so on.
yes.
And then in the past that we have not been able to explore by the lore of Warhammer Fantasy, gods have died in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So, what makes Yuri so special? And that's the thing. What is the future for a character like this? Does he devote himself, or does he stay undivided? Does he become a god? This is the strange stuff when it comes to character implementation.
We'll go to the point which of the history of Legendary Lord we consider canon, like the main. But let's get back to our main character of this whole series, so Advisor. We are seeing Advisor in the moment when he finds out the Tome of Fate. This is like the, let's say, blessed book by Zinch. So have all the answers, everything. It's like actual Google right now. And the problem is that moment he takes it, it binds to his soul. The only way to unbind from the book, we don't really know why he wants to unbind. Maybe it's like increasing the taxes for his roaming or everything. But he wants to use the drop of Ursun's blood to unbind from the book. An interesting thing is that no matter for who is he coming to, everyone listens to him. And there is a wild theory that it is the machination of Zinch already.
Well, that's the general theory. What I've discussed with some people is regarding the fact that he's a light wizard from as far as we know. These people are trained to fight demons. These people, their magic is specifically there to do damage against demons, banish them, and so on. So, a little running theory I have with some creators is that he might have just been curious about the book originally. He touched it.
Curiosity is the first step.
Yeah. He touched the book, and that's all it needs. That's all a chaos item needs to have its influence over you. We've seen it with different characters in Warhammer Fantasy. For example, there is another Yuri, right, which is another Ungol. It's been confirmed that they're not the same. But he picked up a little trinket, and what happened? He's losing his mind slowly. He's grown a massive claw in his hand. Just touching something like that can hold sway over you. And possibly why he's looking for blood is to free himself. God blood is very, very, very important. Because it is one of the most powerful things in, say, for example, Warhammer Fantasy. Because it's the pure essence of something which should not, in theory, exist in the corporal world.
Yes, because I think that there was also quite a big change that we need to talk about. That overall idea of Ursun was changed a lot. Because Ursun was never so powerful god. He was from at least what I remember, he was on a par of minor gods of Empire. So Verena, Ronald, even weaker in some cases from what I remember at least. And now we have him as a physical form that everyone sees at each winter's end above the mountains, and it can be physically wounded here.
Well, the thing is that when it comes to Ursun, he was still the chief of the Kisavite Pantheon.
Yes.
But yeah, he was not all-powerful. In fact, some stuff that he does now, like for example, ending winter, used to fall on Daz, the god of the sun. So this is obviously making him a lot stronger to make him a lot more important. I'm not sure why this is being done, but this is obviously something from Games Workshop. And we're not sure exactly just yet. Obviously, hopefully, because it's been hinted by Andy Hall that we might see stuff in the future regarding the rest of the Pantheon, because Kislevites do worship about 5 or 6 different gods. But he is strong now. He is definitely a prime target.
Yes, they made him way stronger, and it changes the lore in a way that not everyone were happy. Also, after playing the game, I'm okay with it. But when I heard it's an Ursun that is the god that will be captured, I was really hoping for Malal. Like,
sorry about that. I had a
Yeah.
PC issue. Right. So Malal. Sorry, I just had a PC issue.
No problem.
Decided to play something. Okay. So Malal never going to happen. I have to stress this a lot because it's never going to happen. As much as I want it to happen, it's never going to happen. And this,
Game conversation with someone else the other day.
yeah, this, interestingly enough, this is going to go down badly with people, right? This is not Games Workshop's fault.
Oh,
okay, why?
But we love to blame Games Workshop, don't we?
Always.
Loads of people do. However, the copyright falls on, I believe, the creator of Judge Dredd.
Was it Judge Dredd? Hold on, was it?
Whoa.
He's just not interested in giving the rights. I'm assuming that Games Workshop have probably offered a lot of money because they still try to keep him alive in obviously with the new name Malice. And he did appear for not him specifically, but his forces appeared in a Warhammer 40k rulebook for the Fall of Cadia for a chapter, I believe, actually, interestingly enough. But there's just no chance to see Malal come back, unfortunately. As much as, because a lot of people might not know, he was one of the first 3 original Chaos Gods. If you go back to 1st edition, 2nd edition rulebook.
Who were the 2nd and the 3rd one?
It was Khorne and I believe Tzeentch.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But Sinesh was not there originally. There was other gods. There were obviously Chaos Gods of Lore and so on. But because they were actually technically there were 6 Chaos Gods, but there were 3 good and 3 bad. And even then, the good ones were bad.
Weren't like the gods of like law and no, or is that a separate set of like Warhammer?
Those were Chaos Gods. That was Solkan, Illuminas, and Arianka. Arianka falls on the same copyright as Malal, unfortunately.
Ouch.
But Illuminas is mentioned in Total War Warhammer constantly. If you play as a light wizard, when you cast spells, he will normally say Illuminas calls.
You're like the second person I've heard even mention the old like 3 good chaos gods.
We need a second nerd meter, really. It just went
in my
again
study,
to the roof.
In my study, I have some of their original posters.
Man.
You should make it like a university of Warhammer lore or something like that. And you will be a professor of everything.
But that's why I wanted to jump in when you mentioned Malal, because a lot of people want Malal. Believe me, I want Malal. There's a great character with Caleb, right? He was a really interesting character. And their forces acted in a very strange way, because they would come to defend some Imperials, but then turn on the Imperials, because like, all right, the Chaos guys are dead. Might as well kill you too.
Yeah, I like the idea of Malal that everything needs to be balanced, and he would be perfectly fitting for the Undivided campaign.
Yeah,
he would.
He would have been interesting. Then there was mention in the campaign. I think it only happens when you play as Yuri. Actually, there's mention of Zuvasin and Koho the Doubter, 2 missing Chaos Gods at the moment. They're referenced as minor Chaos Gods, and they are. The best way to explain them, which people get pissed off at, but they are basically Chaos Gods of atheism, essentially, right?
You made a video about them, if I recall.
Yeah, I did. They are the true representation of Chaos, because you see, Khorne wants to get bloodshed and so on, but he doesn't want the world to end.
Yeah.
Tzeentch wants knowledge. He doesn't want the world to end. Nurgle wants life to bloom. He doesn't want the world to end. Sinesh wants pleasure. He doesn't want the world to end. Zuvison and Nekoho want the end of all things, because true chaos is nothingness, which I think is absolutely grim.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very fitting.
Then why Archaon fucked up the world in End Times?
Because
he wanted to.
No, because the Chaos Gods were the ones that wanted the End Times at the end. Because what we know from Warhammer Fantasy lore, which then moves on to Age of Sigmar, is that there is a cycle. There is a world.
Oh, yeah.
That world gets destroyed and then reborn.
Overthinking dragons.
Yeah, but it is something that's why if we look towards the pantheon of, say, Mor, Dal, and so on, right? They are established to be beings of the previous world. Ursun, Tor, that's how the lore now works.
Quick aside, is there any running theory about that? It was like was it a star dragon at the end of at the start of Age of Sigmar that got together with him to help rebuild the world?
Draconif, yeah, or Draconif, or something like that, yeah.
Overthinking dragons.
Is there a theory that the Celestial Dragon Emperor is him?
There was, but it was kind of debunked with the idea of, if that was the case, he would have already formed a new empire and he would have already be established throughout the mortal realms to be able to defend against the tide of chaos. Because that would have been a rebirth of the universe. The theory is, and I still don't know how, because now we know how strong the Dragon Emperor is. I think it's just, Grimgor fucked him up.
That's really fitting for him. But with his accent, we need to get back to the main topic, because we, from Ursun Power, went to the whole universe and ended on Age of Sigmar.
No, because this is important for people to know, potentially for speculation in the future. This is something that I think I've discussed with you privately, Venris, where I've personally said, I think we're going to get Age of Sigmar units in Warhammer the Old World, which will then translate to Total War Warhammer.
I agree with this 100%.
Yes, that's really possible, especially that we have very big lore changes, not only to the how gods are working. The Kislev is looking entirely different than it was in lore. Cathay was Cathay, the origin of Cathay at least was changed. Rest is more or less the same, but Kislev is got total rework of its lore, aesthetics, everything. It's not the Kislev that I remember from all the books, etc. But let's get to the main campaign. Advisor comes to our legendary lords and offer them help because he have the Tome of Fates that allows to find Ursun and Belacor. And he only wants the drop of blood. According through the game, we sadly do not get any cutscene like it was in Vortex, specific to our legendary lord. We have a story for everyone, the same. And we see that Belacor was the undivided of demon of all the gods and went too cocky, and gods just changed him into the shadow. And he was plotting a whole story to imprison Ursun. Nathan, I only have one question here. Did they explain how Ursun was even chained by Belacor? Really?
They never did. I did ask Andy, and he said, well, Belacor, Ursun was weakened, which makes him a prime target to move, which is fair enough. I have a feeling that we'll likely see something on Total War Access in the future, which will then give us more information regarding this, because this is something I asked him specifically on an episode of Lawbeards, because I was like, this should not be easy, right? It's not like you're picking up a mortal or even a god which takes form of a mortal. You're picking up a fucking bear, right?
Especially that he level upped him a lot in this lore.
Exactly, but I have a feeling that they will expand on that as time progresses. I don't think the story is nowhere near done yet.
Okay, so in the end, sadly, Ursun dies on the way, and using his blood, Belacor is making soul grinders in the Forge of Souls and want to also use his blood to ascend. Again, this is linking to the fact that Ursun is way powerful than he was in the old lore. Of course, we stab him. Belacor, which is a little bit given too lightly for me, that Zinch is making Be'lakor whole again and forces him to serve the winner of the campaign.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that myself.
I'm also not, especially that it's only in the text.
Yeah.
Feels tacked on to me.
Yes.
Well, nobody in their right mind, and I said this in my review, nobody in their right mind would trust Be'lakor.
No.
Nobody.
I've-
Yuri dealt with him as he was immortal. The Cathayans are not stupid enough because we know that they're very smart. Kislerites would be thinking, what? Even Skarbrand, who's supposed to be brain dead,
yeah.
would not allow this to happen.
Yeah.
No.
The fact that Skarbrand is talking is a miracle in the game.
Yeah.
Because he's not able to even speak in lore. His
Yeah.
the brain is so damaged. But we get a different ending, and each ending of each campaign is a bit underwhelming. Let's be honest. It's like 15 seconds. But what happens next is way more interesting, because we have Advisor that said that he lifts the curse, so his soul is not linked to the Tome of Fates anymore, but he is able to use it freely. And at that moment, the white crow comes from the wood and ends on his shoulder. The same crow that we know from Game 1 and Immortal Empires is Sartorial.
Yeah.
Mm,
So my theory is he's been watching for a while.
For sure.
well, Sartorial's Watchers are a faction in Zinch's Chaos Realm, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So my idea is that he's been watching because if you pick up an artifact from Chaos, it's normally got a demon of Chaos there.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a bit of a far-fetched theory, but I did speak about this with Lawmaster Sotek and so on, and he thinks that it could be possible. So the tome itself is the binding for Sartorial.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I was thinking about it. When you started talking, I only thought that this is like the only reasoning why Sartorial came to him on the end. Why he wasn't sooner.
Yeah, because if you look at it, any weapon of power from Chaos has demons inside. I mean, Skarbrand wields 2 Bloodthirsters. That's his axes. Slaughter and Carnage are 2 Bloodthirsters. Any weapon like that, even Archaon, right, with his sword, that's got a demon inside.
Mm-hmm.
So the tome could easily have a demon inside. The blood frees him, and then, okay, you've served your purpose. Die.
So let's see. If and of course we're talking about Zinch, so there's not going to be any concrete answer for any of this. But if that is a binding for Sartorial, and that is a book that allows them to see and know the answer to anything, isn't that Kairos Fate Weaver levels of power for Sartorial?
No. So how it would work for Sartorial is he could still be strong. He just wouldn't be strong as Kairos. Kairos is stronger because Kairos was thrown into the Well of Eternity.
Yeah.
And thus he was blessed with power that not even Zinch can comprehend at the moment.
Yeah, I love the fact that in the game, when you have his quest battle, you need to fight yourself from the future.
That was one of my favorite things while playing.
Yeah.
And the past.
In the past, yeah. Most quest battles are okay. This one is very lore rich and fitting.
So my running theory is that he was binded because he might have because when you find yourself binded to a weapon, it's because you messed up somehow in the past. Normally, it's a form of punishment, and it's a less severe punishment because another one is obviously into the Forge of Souls. So he might have done something and maybe screwed up a campaign. He was thrown into the book, and now he's just there until someone worthy comes and proves themselves. Enter Advisor.
Yeah.
Who ends up doing. So, on that note, is there any confirmation of the Advisor who he chooses in both games to work with?
Oh, so you're talking about the canon now. What we consider canon. I don't think that CA will ever confirm what is canon.
I don't think so either. But is there like
I believe we have there's a running theory that it is the return of Urson coming back to life.
I was thinking the same. If it's really Warhammer 3, Warhammer 2, and Warhammer, that's the only logic reason, because the rest are like very world destroying theories.
Yes.
Yeah, because if we go with like Cafe, Cafe, the Cafe campaign is the only, I think, that really doesn't fit this story at all, because they are trying to find her sister, and it ends they did not find her. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Ursun is dead. Ogres want to eat Ursun, and they eat Ursun. Kurgaf want to make a plague that kills gods. So again, this is like a end-time scenario. And Kari wants to have everyone in the bubble. So again, a scenario that would not happen. Kairos want to see a present. Again, becomes even stronger than Zinch. So again, not a thing that we would see. Scarbrand is quite logical, because he wants to take a skull to Khorne, and Khorne just say nope. Ignore skin as always.
Boy, Scarbrand, get back out of here. Go on, get.
And then we have what? We have Kislev left. And the Kislevite is that the faith of Kislevite resurrects Ursun, and everything gets back to normal. And as Nathan just said, I think this is the one that we would consider canon.
There is a problem with that, though. Where the hell is Be'lakor? Because that means he's bound to Kislev, right?
He's serving Katarina right now.
Right, so my theory is the full canon is something we haven't played.
Oh, so you think that the going DLCs that we'll be having will continue the story? Because that's the thing that never was done previously. Each DLC had separate history.
Yes and no. So yes, I do think that DLCs will continue the story because it makes sense. Like, for example, when we eventually get Chaos Dwarfs, it would make sense for them to do the Demon Soul story, because if they can kill Ursun, then Hashut can be fully elevated.
I love Hashut. Hashut is one of my favorite Chaos guns.
Nice.
Now, there is something else. I think that we will get a book in the future, or a short novel or whatever, a novella, going with an alliance of sorts between Kislev and Cathay. In a manner of, this benefits you, this benefits me. You get your god back, I get my sister.
That could tie together pretty easily. It definitely ties together better than any of the other.
The rest of it's hard to link the rest.
Do you, on the note of like DLC and story progression and all that, do you think it's going to be a case of everyone ties back in Ursun in the Realm of Chaos, or it's going to be a Vortex campaign thing where suddenly you have the Vampire Coast equivalent doing their own thing down here?
Yeah, so I think that we're going to have a bit of both. Chaos Dwarves, they make sense to do that, because Chaos Dwarves, they want Hashut to be elevated. The Forge of Souls itself is the ultimate forge that could literally become Hashut's realm.
And they like forges.
Exactly. Then if new stuff comes in, then new stuff could then deviate but still take part. Like, for example, if we get the Kingdoms of Ind, we know this is a land of 1,000 gods, right? That's literally how they're described in lore.
Yeah.
It could be simple enough that they also worship Ursun as one of their gods, because they worship animals, right? They follow a animal / human hybrid sometimes from, because it's a fantasy representation of Indian mythology. So it's very possible that they could also worship a bear, and it could be Ursun. But they could easily be doing something else to destabilize chaos, because we don't know just yet what the fuck the Tiger Men are. We know that they exist, we know that they're in lore, but everything in lore points them to be beastmen.
I think that this theory have a little problem, because a problem and not a problem. The good thing is that for me in Warhammer 2 was that the story of separate factions and DLCs were not linked to the Vortex campaign. But
they were.
They were and they were not. let me finish, because we have Chaos Realms here, Chaos Souls. When it happens, it forces you to do it, because you have those portals everywhere. And right now, making a DLC that is not involved in the Souls in any way would be problematic for your gameplay perspective.
From a gameplay perspective, yes, but keep in mind that we've had DLC which has not been following that, and they've done their own thing. Like, for example, a very important thing to note is one of the cities in the Empire has a unique map. That is the city of Null, right? Why does that have a unique map if it's not going to be focused around a very important point in the timeline in the year 2509, which is Tamacon?
You mean?
So, right, Tamacon is a Kurgan warlord, right? He's actually a maggot, but he possesses the body of those that he takes over.
Oh, I do know about this guy. Yeah.
Okay.
So
sounds nice.
why would Tamacon want to? Tamacon does not want the souls. Tamacon would not want the souls. Tamacon's story was, "I'm going to destroy the Empire because that's what my ancestor wanted to do." The Great Kurgan, and he invades. He beats the crap out of the Chaos Dwarfs, makes them join him. Beats the crap out of loads of Chaos factions, makes them join him. Goes into Cathay for a bit, doesn't really stay that long. Fights his way through the Badlands, goes into the Empire, and goes to attack the city of Null, because he was trying to go straight to Altdorf. Rather than fighting his way down through Noska, which would have probably been a little easier, he decides, I'm going to go down through here, sneak through, but bash my way through Wissenland and go into Altdorf. If Altdorf falls, the Empire falls. Null is the central plot point for the big war. And now we have this gorgeous-looking map, which is unique.
There's a lot of theories with it. How Warhammer 3 can be expanded. I really hope that the history of Advisor will go on, and it won't be like an finished chapter, and we have only the DLCs that are going. But as we are doing this podcast, my Zinch just gave me an idea that Warhammer 3, when Immortal Empires came, we will get literally book of the Tome of Fate, when each campaign from Warhammer 1 and Warhammer 2, the mini campaign, Immortal Empires, Vortex, etc., will be playable as their own timeline. Because as we know from Warhammer 3 lore, a Book of Fate shows the future, past, and the possible timelines. So why not make this is like a whole game mode? So we don't make one story that's, Nathan, you were talking from year X to year X. We just make an alternative story, like a multiverse of Warhammer.
Odd.
I don't think that they would be able to do that, because we know if you follow the other points of Warhammer Fantasy, because obviously to a lot of people it's just Total War. But we do have new canon coming out, say, for example, with Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay and so on, right? That, in its newest form, is stabilizing the timeline. It's making stuff canon, which was only canon in, like, separate events, into one thing. So, for example, Elsef, a character for Tamacon, she only existed for the Tamacon story, and apparently did not exist in mainline Warhammer Fantasy 8th. Now she exists in Warhammer Fantasy 8th. Because she's mentioned in the new book for Warhammer Fantasy 4th, Roleplay 4th. So I feel we're going to get everything running, and everything's going to be working in its own points. Like, say, for example, the Tomb Kings, they had their own story. But they were still aware of what was going on. There are different ways that this could be done, where it might be a bit tough for factions, like, say, for example, if you bring in another Kislevites, it makes sense for the Kislevites to do the Realms of Chaos, right? If you bring in another Cathayan, it makes sense for the Cathayan to take part in the Realms of Chaos.
Yeah.
If you bring a Cathayan adjacent, like the Monkey King, I don't think he gives two fucks about the Realm of Chaos.
Not really. But
Yeah.
I don't know too much about him. Just that he is a troublemaker.
There's also a thing that Immortal Empires from the League doesn't have Realms of Chaos, which is logical.
Hmm.
But
However, it does have the Northern Wastes to its full capacity and the Southern Wastes.
it gives me a glimpse of hope that Be'lakor will be playable Legendary Lord with own factions starting on the South Pole.
Yeah. I mean, he'd have to. That's lore-wise, he has a fortress there, doesn't he?
Yeah, that was my reference to your knowledge about this, because I didn't know this before our previous tag of the Be'lakor, that is on the south, and everything's again links to the advisor. If he will be like an anchor of each of those stories, I really hope.
I think it's working like this. Where Game 3 is the first in lore,
Mm-hmm.
he's trying to get the blood. He gets the blood.
Mm-hmm.
Warhammer 2, he's infiltrating the Colleges of Light, which is why we're not seeing him. He's too busy infiltrating the colleges, trying to find whatever he finds in Warhammer 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, he goes to Chaos, he goes to Archaon, because in his mind, he's getting tricked by Sophoriel, and that's his end. So I think anything that we do see in DLC now for Warhammer 3 is going to give us the little bits of information as to what he wants, why he's doing it, and we are leading to, which is something which triggers a lot of people. But if Warhammer 1 is the last bit of the story for us,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to the end times, whether people like it or not.
Yeah. And I think enough time's passed where the majority of the end times hate as kind of the fire of that has died down a little bit and people be a little bit more accepting about it. But I do think it was going to spark some stuff back up.
Oh yeah, it's definitely going to spark stuff up, and we've seen it already. Obviously, there's been data mining for Game 3, right?
Yeah.
And we spoke about this on private chat, Vendris. We saw the crest of Nagashizar.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's in the game. We can expect the invasion from Nagash.
Yeah,
Story.
but not only that, but it's end times art.
Yeah, that's true.
That is
so
artwork
excited.
that literally came out for the end times.
Yes, because we also used it for one of the CFO units, and it was from End Times. I think that it would be very cool if Immortal Empires had like a setting that you can pick the main goal. Let's not main goal, main event of the campaign.
At the end of the campaign.
Yeah, something like that. Because Mortal Empires had Chaos Invasion, and maybe here in time would be able to pick. You want Chaos Invasion, you want Skaven Invasion, or you want Undead Invasion. That would be cool.
First thing I would do is find the mod that turns on all three at once.
Well, that's what I would hope, right? So in my if we're going to do end times, and keep in mind, right, I played throughout the end times, right?
Mm-hmm.
I bought the books, I played the tournaments, I was there when Warhammer Fantasy died.
It sounds so grim.
Yeah, because it fucked over a lot of people.
It did.
But in a total war aspect, it might be a fun campaign if it's done well. Instead of having two little invasions, which, let's be honest, in Immortal Empires, doesn't Malekith just bitch slap Chaos away, and then whoever has the old world bitch slaps those then too?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it works.
So what we need is 50 turns in, Beastmen incursions start happening more. 100 turns in, Skaven and Beastmen. And then 150 turns in, get it all loose. Instead of an Order Tide, get a proper Chaos Tide. Have Archaon bitch slapping all the other Chaos gods, making all the Chaos factions fall under his boot. Go full ham. Go full ham.
At this point, I think that is the best thing to do.
And at the same time that Chaos is starting and the Order Tide is forming, awaken Nagash. have 3 power factions
Yeah, that would be
all out
fantastic.
there.
And
Give
thanks
that
to the
me, God.
new Chaos Rifts mechanic, we can make it whole world. Not only edges of the map, which was the biggest problem of Mortal Empires always.
Yeah.
That
I
would be
just
great.
I hope they add a way to wrap around on the map because I don't want to be Malekith and spend 20 turns just trying to get to Cathay one time.
They need to do some sort of portal mechanic. I mean, I'm not too well versed with other Total War games as I am with the, like for example, I played Rome 2, I played Attila. Those were smaller because I like swords, right? Swords are cool, axes are cool,
Yeah.
but I believe that Empire had like a teleport function, didn't it, or something like that?
Yeah,
think
on the
Empire's
edge
got the ability to
edge
do
on
that.
the map, so it was teleporting you to the another edge.
Yeah. So that could literally be doable. If they've done it before and this is the same engine, they should be able to do it again. Because I think it would be really fucking cool if I start off as Malekith and I decide, you know what, I don't want to deal with the Lizardmen or go to invade Ulthuan. I want to go fuck up Cathay.
I'm gonna go become the new Monkey King.
Yeah. I mean, it would be kind of
It's got a
fun.
lot of replayability to every
Mom,
faction
can I
that's
go
stuck
to
on the
Cathay?
edges of the
Yeah,
map.
Malekith. You cannot go to Cathay.
Yeah, because replayability is really important. Obviously, DLC does add for that replayability, which is exciting and worrying at the same time because exciting is it brings in a new character in a new location, like what we had with Malice, which took him to the Dragon Isles and so on. That was cool for me. But DLC is slow, and that replayability comes out really slowly. The great thing, obviously, is we do have modders, which have brought in different legendary lords and so on, and that allows for more replayability. But the only way I can see this being so replayable is if they are faster with the DLC cycle.
I think that there's also a big problem with the design of Warhammer 3 as we go on the side topic end. There is a thing that Warhammer 3 lost all the roads, buildings, and also all the almost all the bonuses for movement range for armies, and it really makes traversing the map problematic. And if you remove the Chaos Rifts on Immortal Empires, when you will be playing Malekith, for example, you will never meet Cathay. If they won't do any sort of gateways, teleportation places when you can traverse the world.
Yeah.
Because movement on the Chaos Realms map itself is now problematic, and when Immortal Empires will come, it will be even more problematic.
I mean, the map is, from data mining perspective, 508 settlements, which is...
It's a fair amount.
Chaos Realms have how many? 300?
Chaos Realms has 200 and something.
So we can say double.
Yeah, about double. I know that it's about 40-something% bigger than the Mortal Empires. Because I was looking at statistics for a video that just came out as we were recording this. And it's big. It is big. Like, I for one, was really excited, funny enough, to see what scale they're going, but I'm also thinking, holy crap, this is going to be a long-ass campaign, because I like to paint the map.
Yeah.
Same here.
I'm also very glad that Old World got a rework, at least on this league. The geography is looking like from lore. It's not squished like it was in the old games.
Yeah, it is much better. Like the first moment I saw this, because I got a message from a bunch of people. Like literally, I think like 10 minutes as soon as the game was playable, people got into the game files, and you gotta love people for that, right?
That's how it works when you are a modder.
And I got like a lot of messages from a lot of modders and so on, like, oh look, we saw the map. I'm not sure if you can use this for anything. Which I reached out to CA and so on. And the first thing that came to mind for me before I noticed that Ind and Koresh were there was like, oh my god, Lustria, finally.
I could see the edge of the continent. Yes.
Yeah.
Because it was so needed. It was so needed. The Southlands looks gorgeous. Everything looks more akin to the old artwork. The book's actually somewhere else because I thought I had it with me. It's very similar to that of the old Warhammer Fantasy map.
Yeah, because the Immortal Empires map, how it was squished, it was very problematic in many cases.
Yeah.
For example, if you want to do factions like Estalia and Tila, there was just no room out there. And now those parts of the continent are way bigger, at least on the lake. So it's giving a lot of possibilities for the DLCs.
Well, we know more or less that they're coming, right?
Yeah.
Before anyone jumps to things, because this is a thing that a lot of people don't seem to check, and it works out in my favor because people don't cover it. But it's it's Warhammer: The Old World. This is something that I've been waiting for a long, long time. And if you go on to not the most recent one, because that was focused on Cathay, but the article before that was focused on the Border Princes.
Yeah,
and what
I
people
remember
might
the map.
not-
It had the map and it was changed a little bit.
Not only that, but there are now official crests, like shield styles, for Talia and Estalia. They are separate. They are separate shields. This is very important.
I know
It
when
is.
it's going, and as we can have from the history, they showed Kislev, and we got this Kislev right now.
Yeah, and it was the same shield crest. So why does Estalia and why does Talia, two factions that are historically linked together because of one army book, which is probably in the bathroom because I like to take reading with me, but they were the Dogs of War. So maybe we don't get Dogs of War. Maybe we get Talia. Maybe we get Estalia. Maybe we get anything that was linked to the Dogs of War in their own army books. Remember that CA did come up with that statement, which was something very strange, where they said that they wanted to support Warhammer 3 for many years.
They
Many.
did. That makes me. I have two questions about Immortal Empires and moving forward with that. One is, do you think the Potion of Speed update changes are going to be coming from Game 2 to Game 3 right away?
I think
They
they are
have to.
already. No.
Yeah, I mean, the game is quite fast. The game
It
is
is.
quite fast.
Yes. It's
And,
a technical perspective. It's there for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. The other one was in regards to DLC for Game 3. Do you think they'd be willing to put out DLC just for Immortal Empires?
This is something that I have stated in the past, and this is something that I've speculated very heavily on. I think it's possible. My worry is the cost of entry, because the game is not cheap. The games are not cheap.
Nope.
Now, we do know a few things which kind of gives me a bit of a better feeling. And this is pure speculation. So this is something that I was speaking to Xenon about, right? Where before, modders could make stuff out of DLC stuff, and people wouldn't require those DLCs.
Yeah.
Right.
But now you do. So obviously, that is now very hard-coded.
Yeah, we
And
don't know how it works just yet, but there is a new table that links the parts and units to the specific DLCs. Previously, it was hard-coded, and you were not able to transfer this unit, but you were able to take parts of it. And we are afraid that you won't be able to make parts of it anymore.
So the best case scenario, and I don't think this is going to happen, but I think it could be doable. You get access to, you only own Game 1, you still get access to Mortal Empires. Game 3, sorry. Game 3. You only own Game 3, you get access to Mortal Empires. Meaning that they could make DLC specifically for that campaign. And then if you want to play as Game 1 and Game 2, you just buy them. Those races will only be locked behind the paywall, but not the map.
There's a lot of, DLCs and money that companies like.
Yes, but this would be the best way, because say, for example, Ind is not in Game 3's map. If they do an expansion for all of Cathay, given the orientation of the map, which is actually very obscured, you can't see my hand gestures because of the stupid green screen.
It's pink screen.
Yeah, but it is actually like skewed like this, right? Instead, that's how Game 3's map works, when it should be like this. It should be centralized. So, why make an Ind DLC if you can't put Ind in that map? unless they do a massive expansion, which have to include a lot more territory. Make int for just the Mortal Empires. People get access to it if they want to do it. They just buy it and that's it. You don't have to lock it behind free games. And then if people want to play as those factions, they either have to buy it or they already own it.
This is a good theory, but I don't think it will happen.
You'll have people that are going to be angry. It's like, I want to play as the Tiger Man in the Realms of Chaos. Why can't I do that?
Yeah,
Also,
but
I
you
just
won't be able
noticed it, and I can't get past the fact that it looks like the demonette behind you is giving you a firm pat on the back.
I mean,
All the time, all the time.
all the time. But it's something that I think would work very well, and it would make everyone universally happy. Because as a person who's been playing since day one, look, I'll be honest with you, I get the games for free. Doesn't bother me, right? People who have been playing since day one, it doesn't bother them because they already own Game 1 and Game 2 and probably all the DLCs.
Yeah.
But average Joe that's just come into the series because I know there's people who are only going to buy it if they see Ind, if they see Talia, if they see Astalia, because they want to get something that might be representative of them in real world in a fantasy aspect, you know?
Yes.
So if a guy who wants to buy Ind and only wants to play Total War Warhammer because of Ind has to pay 160, 180 pounds, then buy the race pack, which is what, another 20 pounds, 25? Yeah. Like that's over 200, man. Go fuck off.
Yeah,
set it to your wish list and pray.
I think it's a problem with all the sequels, not only Total War Warhammer, that you need to make like each game accessible.
Yeah. So I think if they do that, it'll be better.
There is like people are complaining right now about the new Horizon game, that if you didn't play the first game, you don't understand the half of the story even. And that was never a problem, for example, in Witcher games, because they were very separate entities. And I think that CA want to do the same with Warhammer 3, make people to not be forced to buy Warhammer 1 and Warhammer 2. So I think that Immortal Empires overall will be free. You only will require Warhammer 3 for it. If you want the other factions, you just need to buy Game 1, Game 2, and all the DLCs.
Treat the other two games as DLC for Game 3.
Yeah. And only on the last note, I think when the Mortal Empires game will be taken out from Game Pass.
Really?
I don't think
Why?
so.
It's just too good deal, especially that you can take Game Pass for $1 for 3 months.
Oh man, the Game Pass is just too good of a deal to exist, and yet here we are.
Yeah, but it's smart for them to do it because this means that they'll be able to market Total War better. So I think they'll keep it. I think they'll even put Game 1, Game 2 in Game Pass. Now,
They should. I'll say that.
That would be crazy.
I think it would be a smart idea. And I tell you what, this is an open suggestion to CA. If you want to take the idea, take it. Do it like this. Do it game free, you get Immortal Empires. Game 1, then if you want to play as the races from Game 1, then you need to buy Game 1 and its relevant DLC. You buy Game 2 and Game 2's DLC. To sweeten the deal, to make it even better for players, I have just bought Game 3. I've played through it. I want to play Game 1 on it. I buy Game 1. I play Immortal Empires. I want a smaller campaign. Give me the original Warhammer 1 campaign in Game 3 with all the reworks. So I get to play the Empire reworked.
Tome of Fate. This is the thing that I was telling. So all the campaigns that we had in the trilogy, in this one nice book, you can pick what you want. I would love to play Beastman campaign from Warhammer 1, the mini campaign, with all the additions of the Beastman.
Yeah, with the Beastman rework.
Yeah.
The Wood Elf campaign would be awesome with the Wood Elf rework. Like,
who is going to go back and reinstall Total War 1 and Total War Warhammer 2 after Game 3's Immortal Empires drops? I think that would solve all of that too, right?
Exactly. Give the players, and this is the thing, the game file is massive.
Yes.
It's 112 gigabytes. The races are there. We know the Game 1 races are there. And Game 2.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Everything is there.
Everything, even the campaigns, because we've seen it in data mining.
What is funny, campaigns from Warhammer 1 campaigns were removed in Warhammer 2, I think around Potion of Speed update, something like that. Tons of tables were removed, and now all of them are back.
Mm-hmm. So do it like that. Do it like that. It would make a lot of people happy.
And
imagine.
End note. End note, Nathan, because for last 20 minutes we are not talking about lore, advisor, anything. We are talking only about Immortal Empires.
This happens every time.
Oh, yeah. So, end note from each of us for this episode. Overall feeling about the story of Trilogy. Let's start with you, Luz.
My overall feeling of the story with the Trilogy is that there are some gaps that hurt its feeling of interconnectivity between all three games that I think can easily be plugged by just leaning a little bit more heavily into the advisor story during the DLCs or novels like Nathan was suggesting. All that said, even with all the changes that they've made to existing Total or Warhammer lore for their games, I'm pretty satisfied with all of it. And I definitely learned a lot and put it together more as they've made more of these games. They showed that when they knocked it out of the park with the prologue.
Yeah, I agree. Nathan?
Like I said it. I said it in my review. This is the Warhammer game I've been waiting for. Yeah. It needs work. The series isn't great, but it's getting there. Warhammer 3 obviously has a few issues to solve, but I think like Warhammer 2 had, this might be the biggest Warhammer game of all time that we ever get, and I can't wait.
And I will say a very similar thing, because 6 years ago, if someone would tell me that the third game will have Chaos Demons, I would never believe that it will be so good, and Total War would have a very good story-driven campaign. Yeah. Nathan, thank you very much for being our guest today. I hope you did not lose the time with us and spend it properly, as for the Slanesh cultist should.
I had fun. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, we also did, and remember that
it's great having you here. I had I've been watching your stuff, but I had no idea that you were so completely saturated with Warhammer lore. This has been a treat.
I love this universe. It forms a big part of me, and man, I've got Warhammer tattoos on me and so on. It can't be seen too well, but I've got Chaos Star tattoos and everything. This is a universe that's very, very important to me. And if I don't complain, I'm scared that CA might fuck it up.
Okay. Okay, as a jokey note, I would just say that my wife still doesn't allow me to make a Chaos tattoo. And the necklace that I had, my son broke it a few years ago, and it's still broken. Okay, thanks everyone for watching and listening. Remember that you can always support the podcast with your subscribe, like, or the donation to the SF Remote team. And also you can hear us on Spotify. That was I Don't Know Podcast, and with special guest of Nathan from the Great Book of Channel, the greatest lore channel on, let's say, this part of the creation and multiverse of Warhammer. See ya, everyone.
Take care, guys.
See ya.